Lots of people imagine carpentry as being a very specific set. It is, but as a golf clubhouse, you have maybe 80 fire-rated doors with panic bars and automatic closers on them, and they all have to be hung. And typically, they would set down a crew of 2 or 3, and that's all you do for 3 or 4 weeks. You just hang fire doors and put panic bars and put the rest on. So carpentry isn't always just about, finished wood. It's about a number of different things. And concrete forming as an example. Anytime you see concrete, and those are all carpenters who put that stuff together. I liked what I did. I didn't dislike it, but I needed something else. So as an adult student, I sold all my tools. I have a little story about that after I'm finished telling you. I sold all my tools, came down to Toronto, got a crappy apartment at Sherbourne and Wellesley, and got enrolled at U of T. At U of T, I got a degree in history with a minor in economics, and I did so at the advice of my counselor, my degree counselor, who said, if you get a history degree, you better have something in it that guides you to business if that's what you want to do, because a history degree in itself is probably not a good setup for that. I didn't want to teach history. In fact, I didn't want to teach anything. That's why I'm a little unusual being here. But having the economics subset or minor to that helped me work in business. I worked for Anderson Consulting as an analyst, was headhunted out of there, worked for an American company, can only call it a .com. This is back in the last part of the 20th century. Worked for a .com and worked in the business development side with a number of processes that were completely and outside, unrelated to construction, nothing involved. When that didn't look so well in 2000, I needed someplace to unfurl my parachute, and at the request of my girlfriend then, my now wife, she said, you can't be too picky about where you're going to go. And so I applied for a job as an office manager at a company called Royal Home Improvements, and that was in 2000. That's how I came to that company. Why? Well, when I met the principal owner at the time during the interview process, it seemed like a perfect fit. I always loved what I did. I didn't dislike building. I didn't dislike the challenge that came from building something from nothing and creating. And now with my new set of skills, that perhaps, or was going to lead me to something I like to do, but allowed me to kind of utilize other things I had learned in between. If there's anything about that route, I mean, I wanted to remind myself, and perhaps if it serves as any purpose here, when I was at school, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I didn't go there because I had an ultimate goal in mind, and you may be more focused because you're at college that has more streamed course requirements and course directives. But if there's any story that I remember, it was one that was told to me earlier on about Louis Leakey, who ended up being the most famous anthropologist ever, and who was not an anthropologist, who was a mathematician. And his ability to measure the radii of the inside of the small sections of skulls he found enabled him to become the most famous anthropologist ever. You likely recognize the name if you've ever watched any Discovery Channel TV programs, although I'm not too sure about that. But that's sort of why when I came out, I had no idea what I was going to do. I needed money, certainly. I needed a job, absolutely. But knowing exactly what I was going to get, you never do. And even to this day, my position, and I'm a junior partner, is pretty set. But that doesn't preclude me from looking at other things, if possible. And we'll speak a little about that later in terms of setting up a business and running a slightly larger business, perhaps than some of the other members at Building. Royal Home Improvements, it's a full-service contractor, meaning we do just about everything. We build custom homes, infills, so we go to a lot, bring a machine on site, take the whole house and put it into a bin, dig a new hole, and resurface the property with municipal water and sewage power and build a whole home complete. And what kind of print media we put out, what kind of radio programs, and what kind of voice we have when we present on the radio, that's him. In the background, where does the money come from that is used to buy radio time, how we hire, what kind of legalities, regulatory obligations the company has, how we report our finances, and the rest of the process management processes are mine. Production reports to me, finance reports to me, I report to Paul. And that's how Royal works. That's not the only model. There are others who have more hands-on approach, owner-operators who would want to interact with many divisions. In this case, my role as a professional business person is to sit in the background and not go out and do sales calls, although I do some conflict remediation. I don't do sales at all. Sales and Paul do all of that. In the back end, no one touches the books except for me, and I produce quarterly official reports that I must sign off on for presentation and potential audit by the accountant outside the company for obvious reasons, security reasons. I don't involve myself in day-to-day project management. Keith Rout and Alvin Matrucci, the two senior project managers, report to me and report to the company on a weekly basis. And we hold one weekly production meeting and one weekly sales meeting. As you can imagine, with that type of revenue, and I wanted to avoid the optic of bragging or separating ourselves. We're not. To give you an idea of the complexity, perhaps, and the financial impact that the company has. At any given week, for any number of circumstances, we could have $120,000 check runs. So on Friday, $120,000 in checks are produced in a file folder and presented for my signature and Paul's signature. And the reason I mention that is that as a reporting tool, Sandra's probably laughing over there because she knows that many companies, particularly when they start, use their bank account as a reporting tool. The bank account is not a reporting tool. The bank account is how much money you have right now, but it's a snapshot. We use a profit statement and a balance sheet as our tool to understand what we have, because AR and AP at any given time will give you a reflection of where you're going to be next week. You can't not pay the $120,000. It's all likely legitimately owed. And so if we need to go into credit lines to ensure that that day we have enough money, that's what we do. However, to continue doing that when we didn't know that there was going to be enough money next week would be irresponsible and frankly business foolish. Do you have a financial component to the course?
We did.
Okay. And what scale does that take on? Do you look at a profit statement? Have you seen balance sheets? You know what they look like?
Yeah, we worked on balance.
Yeah, it was very basic.
The books are basically.
I'll send you our cost sheet, and you'll know what we think it costs to spend for hoarding and protection, waste removal, demolition, excavation and disposal, concrete and formwork, framing and roofing. And again, this is robust and it's been built over the course of years, but it's not impossible. I mean, anyone could put this together in 2 hours probably. You can just write all the things down you think go into a home and write out the lines in a number of different cells and plug numbers in. You might be wrong, but you'll do a job and you'll know what's right. On that experience level, you can gain advantage, just to touch back on being a member of an association. Being a member of Build will actually allow you to access, sound like I'm selling Build now.
I do it all the time.
Okay. Well, it'll allow you to access back-end stuff. You can literally go in and say, how do you do things? You know? Well, what's your experience been?